All right, let's jump right in. You've probably heard a million times that to fix your problems, you've got to dig deep into your past, find that root cause, right? But what if that's not just kind of unhelpful? What if all that digging is actually making things worse? Today, we're going to explore this really powerful, kind of counterintuitive idea that completely flips that common wisdom on its head.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll tackle what's called the insight paradox. Then we'll break down why those old school insights usually fail. After that, we'll look at a radically practical alternative and see how it works with something called the power of preference. And we'll wrap up with a simple exercise you can use to start rewriting your own inner monologue. Let's do it. Okay, first up, the insight paradox. We're all taught that having a big aha moment about our past is the key to getting better. But is it really? So let's just put the main question right out there. Will figuring out why you have a certain emotional problem actually, help you fix it? Well, the source material we're looking at today has a pretty surprising and very specific answer to.
And here's the twist. The answer is a big maybe. Turns out, not all insight is created equal. In fact, the most common types, what we'd call conventional or psychoanalytic insight, might be the very things that are keeping you stuck. So let's look at why that is. So now we get to do a little myth busting. We're going to take apart the two main ways people usually try to get insight and really see why they so often just don't work.
You have to love how blunt the source material is here. It calls this kind of insight drivel and says it can actually make you nuttier. So what's the logic behind such a strong claim?
Well, it's because this kind of insight is all about finding someone or something to blame. You know the drill. You realize, oh, my parents always said I had to be a huge success to be a good person, and now you're not, so you feel worthless. Okay, great, now what? All that insight does is give you a reason to be mad at your parents, or to hate yourself even more for believing them. It never gets to the most important question, which is, what are you doing right now, today, to keep that old belief alive?
And if you thought that was unhelpful, our source argues that psychoanalytic insight is even worse. It's like wandering into a maze of really complex and often totally contradictory theories that can leave you way more confused than when you started.
I mean, just look at this list of potential reasons. It's fascinating, isn't it, how contradictory they are? So let's say you feel like you must make $1 million. Is it because you're anally fixated? Or because you secretly hate your father? Or is it to remove a family shame? I mean, which one is it? They can't all be true. And even if one of them was, how does knowing that actually help you change the belief that's making you miserable today? It doesn't. It just keeps you digging forever.
So if digging around in the past is pretty much a dead end, what's the alternative? Well, this brings us to a much more practical approach, something called rational emotive behavior therapy, or REBT for short. And it offers a totally different kind of insight.
This table just lays it out so perfectly. Instead of getting stuck in the past, asking why did this start, REBT yanks you into the present. It asks, what am I actively believing right now? And that one change moves you from what they call analysis paralysis, that endless digging, to active change, where you can actually deal with the beliefs causing you pain today. And here it is. This is the absolute heart of the whole thing. The core of REBT insight is learning to spot the difference between your preferences and your demands. This one little distinction, it's a total game changer. Let's see how it actually works. To make this real, we're going to look at the story of a client named Annabelle. She was a writer and a mom who felt like her perfectionism was the engine behind all her success. But it was also the source of crippling anxiety. And this was her dilemma, right here. It's a feeling a lot of us can probably relate to. She really believed that if she gave up her perfectionism, she'd also have to give up her high standards and her achievements. It felt like she had this impossible choice: be successful and anxious, or be calm and, well, average. But that was a false choice. See, REBT makes this brilliant distinction between healthy task perfection and unhealthy self-perfection. It's the huge difference between saying, I'd really prefer to write a perfect novel, and saying I must write a perfect novel.
The first one is healthy. It's about striving for a great outcome. The second one, that's where you tie your entire self-worth to the outcome. And that is a one-way ticket to anxiety and self-hatred. And this, right here, this was Annabelle's big aha moment. She suddenly realized she could keep all her high standards. She could still strive for perfection in her writing, in her mothering, in everything. The only thing she had to let go of was that one tiny, tyrannical word, must. By changing that demand back into a strong preference, she kept all of her drive, but she ditched the anxiety. So let's make this super practical. How can you actually use this idea in your own life? Well, here is a simple 3-step exercise straight from the source material that you can use right now. Here's how it works. First, think of a painful memory, maybe being criticized or laughed at in school. Step 2, identify the irrational rule, the must, that you created in that exact moment. Not just, I don't like this, but something stronger, like, I must not be criticized. It's awful and I can't stand it. Then, step 3, you consciously, forcefully dispute that belief. You reframe it as a preference. You say to yourself, you know what? I strongly prefer not to be criticized, but it's not the end of the world. I can handle it. And this is the final, really mind-bending realization. The past event doesn't have any power over you today. The event is over. You're not actually preserving the trauma. What you're preserving, what you're reactivating every single day, are the rigid musts that you attach to it. And that is something you absolutely have the power to change. And that brings us to the final, and I think the most important question, the one I'm going to leave you with. Take a good, honest look at your own struggles, your anxieties, your biggest frustrations. What is the unspoken, absolute must that's hiding at the heart of it? And what do you think would happen if you decided to change it back into a simple preference?